We're continuing here with Brenda today. Brenda, you've had all this experience now with pets, all these various different scenarios, different kind of problems they dealt with, autoimmune diseases, disc diseases, back problems, mobility issues.
A to Z.
A to
It's A
in
to
America,
Z.
that's A to Z.
Oh yeah.
A to Z.
Yeah, Canadian
A to
it's
Z,
Z.
All these colloquialisms that you throw at me.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Everything.
But, and you did speak about yourself before, about the things that you've personally experienced. But let's talk about people. A lot of people have been touched by you who were dealing with various maladies or they just were in bad shape. I don't want to say they had a sickness or a disease. They were just, just down. They just weren't really tip-top at all. And you began to see potential.
Oh, absolutely. It's a no-brainer, right? What happens is when people come and they get their animals on enzymes, I don't care what anybody says. It's no snake oil. Animals do not have snake oil. They cannot think psychologically like we do.
There's no placebo
That's
effect.
right. That they're getting something different, so they're getting better. It doesn't work that way in animals. So when people come and they get their animals on the enzymes, you cannot again deny what it's going to do for you when you see what it's done for your animal. So I've had some. Oh my gosh, wouldn't even know where to begin, but I would say probably one of my biggest that were just a wow thing was a friend of ours at the lake a number of years ago. And now Dennis he had broken his back the year before. He had 5 crushed vertebrae. So he would have been 67, 68 years old at the time. Very frail man because he had been broken, right? So he had lost a lot of his muscles.
So he's not getting up and exercising.
He couldn't.
Not using
He
it.
couldn't.
So his muscles are atrophy, basically.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So if
It's
he
kind
was
of a vicious circle.
Yes, yeah. So he like I said, he was someone at our campground. Everybody knew Dennis. Everybody knew Dennis. They were the longest people who have ever camped there. So everybody knew him. So here's this man who's walking around, if he can get up, with 2 canes, being supported by his wife. Everybody heard him always in pain, crying, screaming in pain. So when I went, this was somebody that I'm not ever have I been the person where I go to somebody and say, hey, you have to have this, right? I don't sell this stuff. I really don't. I'm not like that. But this was somebody that I felt in my heart, I've got to go and try and help. So I went over to go see him and his wife, and it was a Friday night. And I brought them the enzymes granules, the oxy drops, and I believe we had the Pro B also. So this was a Friday night. Said, you start all of this right now. And I said I didn't want to know anything, right? I knew because it was during the weekends we were going to the lake, so I knew I'd be back, 5, 6 days later, the following weekend. I said, I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to know anything. Just take this stuff and let's see what happens. So that was Friday night. Sunday afternoon, less than 48 hours later, I'm going for a walk in the campground with one of our dogs, and I've got people coming up to me and going, Brenda, what did you do to Dennis? What did you do to Dennis? And I'm just like...
Did you go, uh-oh, what do you mean? What
well,
did you
it
do to
was
Dennis?
like, I didn't know, right?
Oh my
I
God,
didn't
is
know
he
what...
okay? Is the ambulance on the way?
Yeah, like what's
Okay.
going on?
Yeah.
And so I kind of was like this, right? I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. But here was this man who now all of a sudden he's outside. He's walking outside without his canes. He's not in pain. You cannot believe that this is the same man, and that was less than 48 hours. So because everybody knew Dennis, that really spiraled it at the campground, because everybody was coming to say, whatever he's got, whatever you gave him, I want that too. I've got to have that. Because if you saw what shape he was in to be what he was, you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe it. And that was one of the first ones where it was in less than 48 hours. Less than 48 hours.
Less than 48. So he So is he still continuing to take the?
Well, unfortunately, he passed away
Oh.
not that long ago.
I'm so sorry.
But still, it was to know that. I think that if we hadn't done what we had done, who knows, right? I look at it as that at least we had another couple of good years with Dennis.
Yeah, and made a difference for the rest of his life.
Absolutely, it did.
And this is no way to compare a human to a pet, but sometimes we get people that, they have the older dogs that are 13, 14, 15 years old and older, and are having the problems with difficulty getting up and down, difficulty going up the stairs, all kinds of mobility issues. And there's pain involved. They, sometimes they whimper and so forth. And they'll start their dogs on the enzymes, and it will make a difference.
Absolutely.
Now, what's the rest of their life? Maybe a year, maybe 2, and yet at least they know that when they do go, that they had the best life they could have
yes.
for what was left.
Yes.
For what was left of their life.
Yeah.
But it's really still amazing that, and again, that seems like a miracle kind of a thing. And we know that this is a process whereby the longer you do these type of things, and you're providing these to your body, it only gets stronger as time goes forward.
Oh, for sure. And you know what? And that happens all the time, even to us too. I've been now on enzymes for over 4 years, right? And there's things that that happen to me that I haven't realized have gotten better. And it's when I talk to other people, right? Like recently I had somebody say to me, well, I always have a metal taste in my mouth. And it made me realize I used to always have a metal taste in my mouth too. I always did. I don't know what it came from, what the root was, but it's gone. And I can't tell you when it went away. Even my husband too, not that long ago, he comes and he sticks both of his feet in my face and says, Brenda, what foot was that thing on? What are you talking about? But since he was 10 years old, he'd had something on the bottom of his foot. He had picked it up at a swimming pool. And it was always there. And all of a sudden, here we are, again, 4 years later, and it's gone. He doesn't, which foot was it on? Like, he doesn't even remember what foot it was on. And that's the thing, because it can be so gradual, you don't really notice it until all of a sudden somebody brings something to your attention, or you all of a sudden go, hey, whatever happened to, where'd that thing go? And it's just gone.
Suddenly, this doesn't hurt, that doesn't hurt.
Yeah,
It's like, hey, wait a minute, I can do this again. What?
Yes, yes.
We hear these types of things all the time. Golfers. There's some, Stan is obviously an avid golfer. He's got a great handicap. You could basically call him a semi-pro, and he's out there in that world a lot. And he always carries enzymes in his golf bag because he's running into somebody, when they do a swing, and then their shoulders hurt or their knees hurt, and they're walking the course and this type of thing. Because, and they always thank him. He'll give them a bottle and he'll say, here, take this, try this, because it will make the difference in the world. And he's even got like big name, we're not going to name drop here today, but big name people in the golf world that are just sold on what these products can do, because that's what they do every day. These are people, they make their living swinging a club and walking a course. And, that takes a toll on a body, especially when you get to a certain age. So when the wrists are working and the elbows are working and the shoulders are working and the knees and the hips, and you're not having the issues, your swing gets better.
Absolutely,
And,
absolutely.
So that's a little golf tip.
Yes.
My avid golfing is like putt-putt. That's...
Me too, mini putt. Even that. I just pick the ball up and put it in.
You cheat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's beer pong.
Yes. But yeah, no, it really is amazing for people. It really is. And and I hear all the time from people that when they've gone on enzymes that they don't notice the difference. And my father-in-law is one of those. He was on the enzymes for so long. And then when he snowbirded down here into the U.S., into Texas for the winter, he forgot his enzymes at home. And all of a sudden, as the months are going by, there's all these things that are happening to him, and he's got pains.
I think I remember you calling me and saying, hey, Mike, can you send a tub to my father-in-law? And you gave me the address in Texas. I remember.
And that was something that, he was somebody who didn't really believe, was kind of doing it because we told him to, but he said, I remember you saying, Brenda, if you really want to know what it's doing, stop. And that happens, because once it stops and it's out of your system, everything comes compounding back. I actually had
Your body's lacking the resources that it needs.
Absolutely, and you don't realize it. So I even had a couple of years ago before Christmas, I'd had 2 women who had shared a tub of granules together, and I guess they ran them for maybe about 2-3 months, and then they ran out, and they were going away on a trip to Hawaii. And so before they left, I had said, well, do you not want any more enzymes, to take with on your trip? And they were like, Brenda, no offense, but this really isn't helping. Like, we really don't notice that there's any difference. So anyways, they went away on their trip. They came back 10 days later, and as soon as they were back in Winnipeg, they were like, we need those enzymes. They had hot flashes, they were miserable, they were tired, they were cranky, and to me it was like, oh, but you said it wasn't making a difference, right? So you sometimes sometimes have to stop to really find out what it's doing. I can say though, for me, I'll never stop, because I don't ever want to go back to the way it is, but yet I do have many people. My friend Cheryl, whom you've met, she was here. She did, because she had interstitial cystitis, also the bladder disease and whatnot. So of course I believe she had Lyme disease too. But she stopped last summer. She wanted to see what would happen if she stopped. And it took no time, and everything came back again. She says, that's it. I believed,
yeah.
But I definitely believe now, because I needed to see for myself what would happen if I quit. And that's the thing. If you stop, that's when you're really going to find out what's happening. Even people like with shingles, we had a good family friend of ours on enzymes, and he was one of those too that he went through he was using the antioxidant pills. They stopped, and then he was like, well, it wasn't doing anything for me. And next thing I know, he's phoning me and saying, Brenda, I've got an outbreak of shingles. Like, oh, well.
Which is basically dormant in the body from like childhood chicken pox and laser. Can spring up randomly in older people.
See, and that's the thing. And now all of a sudden he quits taking the enzymes, and this pops up. So he's like, well, I don't really know that the enzymes was making a difference. Like, well, what's going on with you right now? And it was like, like he realized that, okay, because this was something he was had issues with for many years, was having the shingles. And as we know, that it's a virus, right? So if you can essentially knock out that virus out of your body, it's taken care of.
The only thing that's going to beat the virus is the immune system. You have to keep it strong, and without the resources, the body just isn't, the immune system isn't up to par to meet these challenges. I wish we could actually emphasize that so much so, because you take a look at the average diets today, and we're all guilty. We all eat fast food, junk food. I'm not saying everybody. I'm sure there are people out here that eat a very healthy diet, but even with that, the live food and the enzymes provide such a mechanism that's so easy to assimilate it by the body. Probably nothing else that I know of that can be so easily absorbed and put to use and give you that kind of a result, give you that kind of benefit day in and day out. So yeah, it's just simply letting the body have tools to work with.
Absolutely.
And if it doesn't have the tools, it'd be like telling the guy, well, I need a ditch dug over here. Go for it. Don't give him a shovel. Don't give him a pick. Don't give him anything. No tools. No equipment. That's going to be hard. So yeah, your body's tasked every single day to keep you well.
Absolutely.
You've got to give it tools to work with.
You do. And especially, like with things like the shingles virus, I've had so many people who have had the shingles, and one thing we find is that a lot of times they'll get one really bad outbreak after they've started on the enzymes, but it's the body pushing it out, right? And then after that, then it's done. Then it's done. Yeah. So it absolutely is. Sometimes it's just unbelievable with what this can do. That you see these people. I mean, I've had people walk into my house that were like dead man walking, truly dead man walking, and then literally like one that I'll never forget was this man by the name of Rick. And Rick, back in the day, he was a hockey player, and he really didn't, he kind of kept himself in the background. He didn't want people to know who he was.
Just all I know about Rick now is he's a hockey player.
Yes.
But that alone means he's taken a beating.
Yes, absolutely. He had taken a beating. His body, he was in so much pain. So for the last 15 years before he came to us, he was so drugged up, he was so doped up all the time. So when we met him the first time, it was a shell of a person. So, but because he's a big man, he was supposed to take, the biggest dose of the enzymes, to help accommodate his body. Well, he came to see us on a Friday also, and sent him home with everything. He all of a sudden on Monday, so less than 3 days later, we have somebody at the door, and we open the door up, and there's Rick standing there, and he comes in and he's dancing a jig. And it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're the same person that was here. And he's like, you know what, who would have known? If I would have known that something this simple could have made that much difference, and it was only 3 days. So, needless to say, even now, within no time, he was off all those meds, off all of those pain meds and the narcotics that he was using, and now just takes his enzymes every day.
And talk about really a nightmare. The people that are on pain pills, we realize why they're taking them. They're in pain.
Yeah.
So they prescribe these things, but like oxycodones and all these things, and there are some that become hallucinogenic that just make people have terrible, terrible sleep patterns, and just everything gets affected negatively, plus all the buildup of those toxic chemicals in the body, in the brain, the liver, the kidneys, all the things that can be affected by those medications. And it's not really fixing anything. It's not really supporting the body. What it's doing is it's masking a symptom of a body that's hurting.
Yeah.
Why don't you do something to help the body be a better body? And that starts with nutrition. Always, always, always what you put in.
It is,
you
and
can't
it's
get
so
a silk
simple.
purse out of a pig's ear. I don't know what you do. You got to have good building blocks to go in.
It is, and you know what? And we can take it back to as simple as Grandma and Grandpa.
Yeah.
Right? Grandma and Grandpa lived to be 100 and didn't have the diseases and sicknesses we do today, but they couldn't afford, again, to not eat out of their gardens and barns, right? So it's so simple. It is so simple that's what makes it almost unbelievable of going as if taking food can make that much of a difference, but that's all it is. It's just live nutrition, the way that Mother Nature intended it to be for us.
I'm really happy for Rick.
And he's actually playing hockey again now, too.
No way.
Yeah, he's playing hockey again.
I mean, just for fun? Or
yeah,
for what?
Yeah, he's within a league now with, it's a bunch of like retired guys now that do their own.
You need to get him an enzyme shirt.
Yes, a real big one, because he's a big guy. But yeah, I mean, it changed his life, and that's what I live every day. Every single day I get messages and emails from people that saying, and even if it's something as small as, somebody's blood tests, what their blood levels were at, a few months ago and what their levels are at now. It can be anything. I've had people, that their eyes, that had eye issues, and all of a sudden their eyes, they don't need their reading glasses anymore when they're reading. I picked up a magazine, put on my glasses, and went, I don't need those. Like it can do something different for everybody else. It's just a matter of recognizing what it really is, but it sure doesn't take long it really doesn't.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I mean, we're all on a destiny with that day, someday out there. But what we can do is we can turn back the clock a little bit. You had said something about, was it your dad that he was like in his 70s? And he was going in for a physical. He had some heart conditions. You said he had something maybe with back. Tell me a little bit about
my dad. Yeah, he was, so we're going back now 4 years when he was 70. And that was before starting on the enzymes and everything. He had osteoarthritis, he had degenerative disc disease, he had high blood pressure, he had so many, acid reflux. My whole life I always grew up with my dad always burping and burping and burping, and nothing, no matter what he did, that would never go away. And so there he was with 2 canes walking, and we knew we were very close to that he was going to be in a wheelchair, because everything it was all degenerating on him. And his heart too, he always, and it's a typical man thing too, it's, oh, my heart. So what we did, so he had been on enzymes from January to September of that 1 year of his 70th.
So it's like 9 months?
9 months, yeah.
Okay.
And so what I did is we took him in for what's called a cardio screening. And on a cardio screening, they hook you up to this machine, and it tests everything in your heart, the ingoing, the outgoing, and it tells you if you're risk for stroke, heart attack, heart disease, But what it does is it gives you your cardio age. So basically what it's telling you is what the age of your heart is. And so the man who was administrating this cardio screening told us that the best one he had had so far was an 86-year-old lady, scored a cardio age of 68. That's really good, right? 86, 68. So
Most 86-year-olds would probably take that.
For sure,
Absolutely.
for sure, yeah. So he puts my dad on this machine thing, does this thing, and then the printout comes. And when the printout comes, he comes up to me and my friend Larry. We were having this done at a health food store. And he comes up to Larry and I and he says, am I reading this correctly? And the number at the bottom said 34. So on my dad's 70th birthday, he scored a cardio age of 34. And this guy was just like, he says, how? I have never ever seen this. And the thing was is at this health food store in Winnipeg, he carries the Nzymes products. We were just like, that's it, right there. That's what it is.
So your dad was on the enzymes. Was he doing any of the other, like the Q10, any of the things that you had
At
mentioned?
that time, he was just on the enzymes, the oxy and the black leaf and the probi.
So he was doing like the 4 primary enzyme
yes,
products?
on all of those.
Okay.
Yeah. So now we fast forward to just this year, which now we're 4 years later. Now we've added a few more things to him. He's now also using colloidal silver every day. He's using cannabis oil every day. And then also coenzyme Q10. But so he again went just a couple of months ago to have another cardio screening done because of course he wants to know how has it gotten worse, how's it been.
As things change.
Yes,
Right.
and so now 4 years later his cardio age was 36. So it went up 2 years, but still now he's 74 and now his cardio age is 36. Right? So he's a very, very healthy man. They go for walks every day. Him and my mom are always doing things, which was something that was impossible before. And the only thing that changed was the enzymes. The only thing that changed was the enzymes. So, you know, and even when he goes for physical appointments, so when that year, when he had that first cardio screening, the next day he had a physical, his follow-up to his physical appointment from that year. And the year before, the doctor had been concerned. He was just teetering on diabetes. So there was a couple of things that the doctor was...
And that happens too.
Yes.
As you get older and of course their weight goes up and they can't walk, they can't exercise.
Yes.
It
and
all
changed.
dovetails together.
It does.
Right.
It does.
Okay.
So that was one of the things that was on the table, but the doctor said, we'll leave it for a year and see where you're at and see next year's physical. Okay. So now we are at next year's physical. He's been told the day before he's 34. Well, when the doctor walked in with his results, he had laughed and said, you know, Mr. Weave, if I didn't know any better, I would think I'm looking at a man in his 30s. And my dad laughed because just the day before, 3 doors down at the health food store, he had been told he was 34. All of the things to do with the diabetes, all of that gone. And even now still, it always is. It's like he jokes with my dad about how he's the young old man. And it's the enzymes. It really is. So to me, I always say the thing about,
you see it firsthand.
I do.
You see this firsthand. It's not like this is just coincidence because it happens again and again and again
yeah.
and again and again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
So, we know this isn't, just fanciful thinking.
No,
or wishful thinking.
No. So I love, that I always say that, Grandma and Grandpa lived till they were 100. My kids are going to get to have Grandma and Grandpa live to 100. I truly believe that, because they're doing so good and, they're in their 70s, their mid 70s now. And, it's just, it makes me so happy to see my mom and dad who are so healthy and capable and able to do things. Whereas, their family members and their friends they're sick and they're always dealing with things and they always wonder, well, how is it that they aren't sick? But yet, you have to believe. Like, you truly have to believe, and I'm so glad that my parents did believe. But how could you not when they saw their little grandpuppy who was paralyzed and then, saw what it did to me, with the Lyme disease and then just everybody and Daryl, like how we live it every day. Every day, like there's no way somebody can tell me that this is snake oil because I'll come out swinging, right? Because It is.
We gotta get you a hockey outfit, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's okay. Winnipeg Jets.
Winnipeg Jets?
Winnipeg Jets.
Okay.
Go Jets, go, right?
The Nzymes thing on the corner or
Yes,
something, right?
yes,
Get you a
yes.
stick,
Yes.
helmet, and
Sure.
come on.
Sure, bring it on, bring
right.
it on. So yeah, so for people, enzymes, I mean, the stories that I have every day, it's just incredible. It's just incredible. So it's not always where, you know, I could say, well, there's this and this and this and this. It's people who call me, and then as they're telling me their issues and what, that's when to me it's like, oh, I've got this one, or I've, you know.
Well, and that's
so,
how it is, you know, every day on the phone, people call here, they call our offices, and they're discussing their case, and we try to listen to all of the finer details, make notes during the conversation. But literally, everyone that calls, I mean, we've had these conversations hundreds, if not thousands of times before with other similar cases. And so we're very confident then when we're able to talk to them about that situation and give them at least, you know, because everything we do is guaranteed. If they don't like the results they get, obviously they can send it back. But that's very, very seldom.
Yeah.
And we never, ever pressure anybody into a sale. I answer their questions, I make a recommendation, and then let them go and read some information, and when they're ready, let them come back. I find
Yes.
that works better.
Absolutely.
Because
yes.
we don't want to twist anybody's arm.
Yeah, you don't want to sell.
And nobody likes a hard pressure salesman anyway. You ever walk on a car lot and then suddenly 5 guys are like, hey, that's a turn-off.
Absolutely
It's like, I'm just
is,
looking
yes.
at the cars here. Go
Yes,
away.
yes, yes, yes.
You know?
So you tell, you don't sell,
That's
right?
it.
And I always say to people, because we have that 120-day money-back guarantee, I always say, give me 4 months. If after 4 months, if you truly do not see any changes, I will give you your money back. And in the 4+ years of doing this, like in 4 years, I've had 2 returns, and they were just so ridiculous that they don't even count as returns because people stay committed. And that's what I say, just stay committed. You will see. And even if those people then fall off of it and go, well, this isn't working, it doesn't take very long until they're right back on it
Well, you
again.
give us a couple examples
yes,
of that.
yes. So yeah, you just it's amazing. It really is. It's life changing, and it's so simple. It's just nutrition.
It's just nutrition.
Just nutrition. Yeah.
Just real food.
Mhm.